Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I want to start today's video off a little bit differently. Thank you to those of you who have clicked my video. Thanks to those who have watched previous videos, and a special big thanks to everyone who is subscribing to the channel, checking out all the content. It's really appreciated. The channel is growing faster than I ever could have imagined. I believe as of filming this video, we've got right at 200 subscribers, which is, a milestone I've reached far before I ever would have guessed. What we're going to be working on in today's video, we've got the 64 Jetstar back in action again. I know these videos are kind of moving a little slow, but this thing's kind of just sitting outside in my driveway. It's not really near my shop, so I don't have all my tools local here to work on the car. So it's just taking a little more time to get things done than I would personally like. And I understand for the viewers that might be, a little bit of a letdown. But if you will, just stick with me on this thing. We're not done with it yet. We're not giving up. We're gonna get this thing going. We're gonna drive this car one day. Not sure how long that's gonna take, but again, if you stick around, you'll be able to see that. So again, thank you all. Let's get to today's video. We're gonna dig back in on this engine. We're gonna pull the passenger side valve cover, kind of check it out, see if maybe the rust that we saw on the driver's side might have just been because the valve cover was loose. We're gonna put a socket and ratchet on the crankshaft and see if we can get this engine to rotate. I do have an inspection camera, so if needed, we can pull a spark plug. We might pull a spark plug anyway, but we pull a spark plug, see what kind of shape those are in, and just get a better feel for this engine, see if there's any hope that we're ever gonna get it running. A little update for you guys. So in the last video, we looked at some numbers on the engine. I've had several of you comment on, that's definitely a 394. It could be this, it could be that. I really appreciate everybody's input. That's let me do a little bit more research and try to figure out what we have. And I truly think we have an original car here. I think that this engine is original to this car. I think it's possible that someone ordered this car with the 2-barrel engine option, possibly because of fuel efficiency, because of the fuel that you had to run back in the day. You had to run premium fuel and the highest level engine. So, you never know with what people could order back in the 60s on these old cars. But again, I have every reason to believe that this engine is original to this car, and, that this car has really largely not been messed with over the last, 40, 50 years. So let's dig into it and see what we can find out. All right, so we've got our 1/2-inch breaker bar here. We're gonna grab a socket, see if we can get a hold of the crankshaft bolt down there, and see what we can figure out about whether this engine is gonna be able to spin free or not. I have no clue what size this is. And the mechanical fan, old 4-blade mechanical fan, is turned just right. Actually, I'll tell you guys what. I'm gonna borrow an old trick and see if we can push on the fan belt and rotate the engine. That's not looking like that's gonna work. So my guess is that this engine is probably stuck, but let's see if we can get that socket on the crankshaft and get this thing turned over. I could totally just Google this, but that would not be near the fun of just trying to struggle and figure it out myself. Might have to go underneath the car here and see if I can reach up from the bottom. Let's try that. Let's see. Okay. I can barely see it, but I think I can reach in here and get my hand on this. Yep. Okay. Let's see. Our 13/16. It's actually too small, I think. Yeah, this must be a big one. Let's try 1 inch. Maybe it's a big dog. Wow, okay. It's bigger than 1 inch. About 1 1/8. Guys, the underside of this car really doesn't look to be in that bad of shape. The radiator core support isn't rusted out. I mean, this car is solid. Okay, looks like that 1 1/8 socket is gonna do it for us. Got the breaker bar on the socket. I got tight quarters we're working in here, folks. You know, if this mechanical fan wasn't right in the way, this would be just a hair easier to get to. Also want to mention the radiator hose is definitely not original. So, you know, I'm seeing mixed things here, you know, telling me that, you know, on one hand, we're thinking everything's original, which it's you know, it's not out of the realm of possibility that someone along the way, you know, had to replace a radiator hose. I'm not saying that by any means. With the remaining parts of the car looking to be fairly original, it's just, you know, something I'm observing. All right, let's go with a smaller socket wrench. Okay guys, I know this is probably not going to be enough torque to break that engine free, but at least it'll give us an idea of it, if it's super stuck or if we have any shred of a chance of actually getting this thing to crank over. Oh, she's solid. Solid as a rock. Oh yeah, it doesn't even want to budge. Okay, well that's to be expected. Based on what we saw underneath the valve cover, kind of no surprise. Okay guys, we're gonna try removing a spark plug or two real quick. The ones here on the passenger side are actually, look like they might be somewhat easy to get to, but I can already tell I got the wrong size socket. So I'm gonna grab that and be right back. Okay, let's see here. Nope. Well, that doesn't fit. Guys, I just noticed in this video that the valve cover is also off on the passenger side, which is really and truly not what I was hoping to find out in this video. I was actually hoping to find out some good news. Okay folks, so my 13/16 socket looks like it's gonna fit, maybe. Ow. That hurt. Oh wow. Huh. So we literally have threads that are just full of dirt. But I think that might have been dirt from where I just removed the plug. The actual plug looks, again, really good. It's like this thing was running and driving, you know, when it was parked. Let's take out another plug here and see what we can learn. Let's go. see if we can pull one from the driver's side. Okay, I'm gonna try to pull the second plug over here on the driver's side. Try not to mash my finger this time. We've got our loose valve cover just kind of hanging in the breeze here. Okay. Not near as much dirt on the threads of this one. Got auto light. That might have been what the other one was. We've got a little bit of corrosion here on the grounding side of the spark plug, but no major rust or anything crazy looking. Okay, so what I'm thinking now, we've got one plug from each side pulled out. These plugs aren't looking like they're really in terrible shape. So what I'm gonna do is actually pull out all 8 plugs, and then we're gonna mix together some kind of concoction of transmission fluid, acetone, and hopes and dreams. And we're gonna start dumping that mixture into each of the cylinders, and then we're gonna let that sit for a couple of days. And then hopefully when we come back, you know, maybe we can get the breaker bar on, start working the engine loose, and get this thing to spin free. While we're at it, before I fill the cylinders with the mixture, the magic mix, I'm gonna go grab my inspection camera. I do have a cheap LCD inspection camera that I can use to look down in these cylinders and just kind of get a feel for what's going on inside this engine. Okay guys, so what I was doing there is just vacuuming up all the loose dust, dirt, and grease and grime and everything that's loosened and falling around the top of the valve cover and the intake, just to kind of make sure that we're cleaned up. We're gonna pull this driver's side, we're gonna pull the passenger side valve cover and see if we've got the same scenario going on underneath. And then once we check that, we'll get you guys a look at the inspection camera, and we'll take a look inside these cylinders and see what we have. Okay, so this valve cover has been off, so it shouldn't be too hard to remove here. Everything's already loose, which again is not our ideal scenario, but it's the cards we've been dealt thus far. Really, like, again, guys, I'm just wondering, you know, has this thing just been sitting that long? Or did someone work on this engine and just leave it parked? I think we have what's left of a cricket. Let me get you guys in here for a little closer look at what we got going on here. Check this out. This is the passenger side valve cover, and what we've got is just really not a lot of evidence of oil per se. I mean, we've got some buildup, you know, this looks like almost like carbon buildup, but this side looks way better than the other side, which again gives me a little bit of hope that this engine maybe isn't too far gone. I don't know. Let's keep digging and see what we can find. All right, since we took a look at the passenger side, I know in my last video I gave you guys a look at what was going on underneath the driver's side valve cover, but I just want to revisit that, case there might be some folks that haven't watched my last video, you can pull this cover off and take a look. So unlike the passenger side, this one has a lot more rust underneath, and then everything is just coated in this light layer of rust. And if you see on my finger, the rust just kind of falls away. So what I'm going to do is take my handy dandy fancy vacuum cleaner and see if I can just clean up all this surface rust that's formed inside over here. And maybe we're in better shape than we thought we were when we first pulled this cover off. All right, so while it's not perfect by any means, and you can see this stuff is, it really just kind of wipes off. But anyway, this is making me feel pretty good about this engine. All right guys, so now that we got the valve covers off and we're realizing that we're not really working with total destruction here when it comes to the rust inside the valve covers, let's take a little bit of a closer look inside the engine. So what I've got here is just a cheap, 3-foot inspection camera. And what I'm going to do is use my view screen here, take a look inside the cylinder, take a look inside the cylinder on the driver's side. We removed those plugs earlier in the video, and we're going to see what we can see. And I'll get you guys in here a little bit closer to take a look at the screen and kind of get an idea of what I'm seeing here when it comes to the condition inside this engine. We've got our inspection camera there. I'm not sure how well you can see, but we're looking at the air cleaner on the engine bay. Anyway, let's go for it and see if we can get an idea of what might be happening inside this cylinder. So, all right, so we're going in the spark plug hole here, and we can see the top of the piston, and it looks like this piston is quite near the top of its bore, so we're probably not going to get a great view of what's happening inside that cylinder on this one. So let's go take a look at the one on the driver's side, and we'll see if we can see a little bit more. Okay, so same deal, got our camera here. You can see we've got the engine in there and the view screen. So we're going to go again for the spark plug hole and see if we can tell what's happening on this side. Okay. So what I'm seeing is the top of the piston. Let's try to see if we can get a view of the cylinder wall. Okay, I can see just a little bit of the cylinder wall there. I don't know if you guys can tell what I'm looking at here. Got just a little bit of rust inside this bore. But really, I'm not seeing anything that, is super alarming. Okay guys, so I think what we're gonna do is pull out the remainder of the plugs. So we've got 6 more to pull out. I'm probably gonna take the inspection camera and just kind of get an idea of if all the cylinders are looking good. Looking in similar shape to the 2 we've seen, which so far, again, we've seen the top of one piston and then the top of one piston and then a little view of the cylinder wall. And just want to double check a couple more cylinders, and then we're going to take our concoction here. We just made some magic Kool-Aid. This is a 50-50 mixture of automatic transmission fluid and acetone. Everything I've read, everything I've heard, this is a really good way to, free up stuck cylinders and get some lubrication in the cylinder walls, that'll let us hopefully spin that engine over and be able to see if this thing is going to work itself free. So pull plugs, inspect a couple more cylinders, and then we'll start putting this mixture into those cylinders. And we'll end up letting that kind of cook for a couple of days. I don't think we're supposed to get rain for a little while, so we'll let that cook. We'll put the hood back on, put the hood back on the car. We'll come back in a couple of days and we'll see if we can wiggle this engine free. So we got the cylinders full of the ATF and acetone concoction. We're gonna let that cook for a couple of days, come out, try to turn the engine over a little bit each day. In just a matter of seconds for you guys, this video is gonna cut to probably about 2 days from now. We'll come out, we'll get the breaker bar back on the crankshaft bolt. We'll see if we can wiggle this engine back and forth after that acetone and ATF has had time to soak in and kind of loosen up anything. I did go ahead and check a couple more of the cylinders while I was pulling the rest of the plugs to fill them, and none of the cylinders really look that bad. I did see what looks like maybe some debris, like where rust has maybe gotten inside the cylinder somehow and just kind of fallen to the sort of the corner where the piston wall and the piston meet. But we're talking just a little bit of material in there, so you know, that's not ideal. I really don't have a good way to get it out. I tried to, you know, use my piece of fuel line as a vacuum hose and suck as much of it out as I could, but regardless, we're gonna let this sit and we'll check back in with you guys in a couple of days. We're back for day 2, so it's been about 24 hours. But today we're gonna pull these plugs back out, which they're just in kind of about a half a thread or so. We're gonna pull those plugs out, get our breaker bar back on the crankshaft pulley, and see if we can start working this engine back and forth and see if we can loosen up those stuck rings. Hopefully today we can work those piston rings loose and see if we're gonna be able to get this thing unstuck. We're gonna try just to see if we can get any movement with the ratchet, because this is a little bit easier to get down in there and get it on the crank bolt. Okay, so I'm not getting any movement out of that. I'm gonna go ahead and try to get the breaker bar on. You know, folks, we might just be working on hopes and dreams here when it comes to actually getting this engine to move. Again, those cylinder walls didn't really look bad, but maybe there's damage that we just can't see. And I'm really just not able to get this breaker bar between the mechanical fan and the crank pulley here. Trying to see we have any options here. It'd be nice if I could rotate the fan out of the way. But that belt, maybe the belt, honestly guys, what if the belt is what's stuck? You know, I hate to go ahead and cut this belt off, but it is very well possible that this belt has got the pulley frozen. Oh yeah, that belt was quite stuck on the water pump pulley. Bring you guys in a little closer so you can kind of see what we got going on here. Yeah, there's no doubt that that belt wasn't helping the situation any. But just for y'all's information, the water pump itself seems to be locked up pretty tight. And we checked our coolant and we've got a little bit of corrosion in here, but not a lot of rust or anything, so I don't know. Let's see if we can move this belt out of the way and try to get our socket back on our crank pulley once more. Guys, I'm really missing my angle of attack here. I apologize for the shot. It's probably not the best, but basically I'm just trying to figure out how to get this breaker bar onto the crank bolt and get enough of a pull on it so I can actually try to rotate the engine. And every angle I go, it seems like something's in the way, whether it's the fan or the alternator or something else here. I think I'm going to try to actually get this water pump pulley unstuck so that I can rotate the fan out of the way of the breaker bar, or so it will at least move while I'm trying to crank on that bolt down there. Alright guys, we've got some implements of destruction here. Start off it's just a cheap hard rubber mallet. We're just gonna give this pulley a few taps. I'm not really having any luck here with this. Everything's just old and stuck, stuck in its place here. See, maybe we can get some big like channel locks or something and put on here and tap the handle with a hammer or something and see if we can break it free. Have to admit, this fan makes me a little nervous. I had an uncle who was trying to get one of these off one time and he was using a wrench and it slipped, and whichever way it slipped, the blade of the fan cut his wrist open, and we ended up having to take him to the ER, and he got some stitches and whatnot. So I'm just overly cautious around these fan blades when it comes to twisting and torquing on things, trying to make sure that I don't end up making the same mistake he did. Oh yeah, we've got some movement now, folks. Look at that. See, I think the same thing is gonna kind of be what happens to the engine here. We've just got, everything's just seized in that one spot where it's been sitting for many, many years, 50 years in this case, or darn near it. You know, this engine and everything's been sitting in the same spot. So even something like the water pump, where there's seals and, you know, this thing feels extremely dry, so I should probably stop turning it so as not to damage whatever is left of the seals in the water pump. Who only knows how difficult it's going to be to get parts for this engine. But I guess that's for us to find out. Now the key is, can I get my socket in the right orientation, the right angle? It's definitely helping that I got the fan out of the way though, or at least to where it can move left and right. Come on now. Where are you? Bolt. Where are you? Oh. There we go. Okay. Okay, I think we've got it. And we've got zero movement on this, guys. And my angle of attack is just not ideal in this case. And you know, we've only given this concoction about 24 hours or so to sit in this engine and, you know, do the work that it's trying to do to break it free. So, you know, it might be that we have to come back in another 24 hours and try again, but I'm going to give a couple more tugs on this breaker bar, see if we can't get a better angle. I might remove this radiator hose here so we can get a full swing on that breaker bar and see if we can't get this thing broken loose. Maybe this thing has been touched in the last 50 years and someone realized that there was some catastrophic issue with the engine, and so they decided to leave it alone. But that's not us, and so we have no idea. Ooh. Nice. All right, let's see. Breaker bar on the roof. Despite the horrible angles, I think we're going to have to give it another day to be able to let that ATF soak in. This thing's just stuck. Not giving up just yet though, so let's see. Yeah, guys, I'm just really struggling here with the angle for this breaker bar. It'd be really nice if I had a ratcheting breaker bar, but I don't even really know if that's a thing, and if it was, would this be the right application? I don't know. Maybe, probably not. Okay guys, well, in video time, catch you guys in just a couple minutes, but in real time, we're gonna give this another 24 hours. And I'm gonna see if I can find a better tool for some kind of breaker bar, maybe with a ratcheting mechanism. In the interest of not getting frustrated and not causing any more damage than we have to, I think we're gonna try to find another tool and catch back up with you guys in just a few seconds. So, see you there. Okay guys, we're out here. I think it's like day 4 since we put the original mixture of ATF and acetone into the engine on our '64 Jetstar. So we're out here today to get the hood off this thing and see if we can't get the engine to turn over. Wanted to let you guys know, I actually did come out here, I think it was 2 days ago, and kind of checked on the engine, gave it a little bit of a push with the breaker bar, and didn't have any luck getting it to turn over then. So what I did, I mixed up another couple of bottles of the acetone ATF mixture, and I went ahead and actually filled the cylinders to the point that the mixture started coming back out of the spark plug holes. We have this thing, it's been soaking for I think 2 days like that with the cylinders full, but we're gonna get the hood off and see if we can't get this engine to turn over. All right, so we got the hood off, and again, kind of see here that I overflowed the cylinders, got all the plugs out. And I did get another larger ratchet, so went to the trusty Harbor Freight, not a sponsor. Picked up this 18-inch, half-inch drive flex head. This is letting me get a little bit better angle on the crankshaft bolt down there. So we're gonna give this a shot, see if we can't get this engine to turn over today. And hopefully we can. And then we can start working our way up to getting this thing running. All right. I had to go get this ratchet because this crankshaft bolt is just not easy to access. It's not at a good angle. Man, I'm putting everything I got into this thing, actually bending the ratchet handle a little bit and cannot get it to turn. Let's see if we try going in the opposite way. See if we can try pulling. Move my carburetor stud nuts out of the way. I went ahead and pulled the carburetor off. I've got it in the shop right now, so we can do a little rebuild on that if we actually get this thing to turn over. But first things first is trying to get this engine to actually rotate. And I felt almost like we got a little something out of that. Let's try going back the other way again. Okay, yeah. I saw a little bit of movement, believe it or not. Saw just the slightest bit of movement there on the crankshaft pulley. Yep, okay, so we got a little movement, and I'm hearing a little bit of noise, like we're getting things happening here. So maybe all is not really lost on this thing after all. So we're just going to try to keep working this engine back and forth. Oh, did you guys see that? Holy cow. We're on to something here, you guys. Check it out. All right, let's go back the other way. If I can get this thing situated again. I cannot believe it, guys. We are actually getting this engine to turn over. And like I say, guys, I think it was a Monday when we first pulled the plugs on this thing and, started filling it. So the key is with this, you guys have got to be patient if you're ever going to do this. Look at that. Got some reverse rotation. Go until we stop. And then we switch and go the other way. But, patience is key with this. And I have to admit, in my last video, if you guys have watched it, I kind of gave the notion like I was giving up a little bit early on this engine. And, I felt like all hope was lost, but then I quickly realized that, look, this is just going to take some time. The rust under this valve cover wasn't near as bad as I thought. So the fact that we're getting this engine to rotate right now is just excellent news. One thing I've also read about that I'm probably going to do here in just a few minutes is pull these valve covers back off and take a hammer and just give the valves a little bit of a tap to see if they're stuck. We must have rust in a cylinder here, guys, because I'm hitting a hard spot there on my rotation and reverse. The key is you don't want to break rings off, so you want to go at this just back and forth. Takes a little while. Patience is key. Okay guys, sorry for the little bit of wind noise. It is a little bit windy here today. But I'm gonna get this passenger side valve cover off here. Look, we've still even got our blow-by tube here. This was kind of hanging out in the engine bay. Get some of this stuff moved out of the way here. Heater hoses and whatnot. Okay, so we're gonna pull this valve cover. What I'm gonna do is put this rubber mallet on the valve itself, or on the rocker arm. And I'm gonna just tap each one. See, that one was actually stuck, you guys. So we're gonna tap on each one until they sort of break free. We're getting that moving. I don't know if you guys can hear that sound that's coming from the rocker shaft there. Turn you guys a little better angle here. How about that? I know you're upside down, but just bear with me. So like, see right now, this, you guys can hear that? Hear that one? Hear that? That one's moving. That one's stuck. Okay, well that didn't work out. All right, my apologies, folks. I'm learning this camera angle management stuff here, and if you're still watching this video, I really appreciate you bearing with me here. This project just got a lot more promising when we had that engine break free there. So I'll tell you guys what, I'm just gonna finish breaking these valves loose. You kind of get the idea. We'll check back in with you once we get through with this and start trying to loosen this engine up. Okay folks, just checking in again. I've been tinkering with this for probably about 15-20 minutes or so. Just working this engine back and forth, trying to get a full rotation out of the crankshaft, just to make sure that, you know, we're not going to hit any major snags when it comes to getting this thing to spin over all the way. All these valves on this side were actually stuck in place, but they all freed up and are moving freely now. So very excited here, you guys, to continue working on this engine and hopefully get it running. Hopefully in the next one we'll be firing this thing up. All right guys, I want to give a huge thank you to all of you who have made it to this point in the video. If you have, drop a comment, let me know what you think. Really looking forward to making more progress on this build, or this project here, I should say. Lost a little bit of hope for this thing once the last video was filmed, because obviously, you know, when you get down and dirty with it and you realize the engine's stuck, there's rust under the valve covers, you know, you get a little bit, maybe, I don't know, either way. But thank you guys for watching. Like this video, subscribe. We got plenty more videos to come. We're actually, in the next video, the goal is to hear this engine run. So if you made it this far in the video, stick around for the next one. We're gonna get this thing running unless there's just something absolutely totally screwed up inside this engine that we haven't seen yet. But either way, stick around, like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think. Catch you guys in the next one.